All right, everybody, here we go. I'm going to try to keep this video under 15 minutes, which will be a miracle for me. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through the process of turning 99% fat-free ground turkey breast, which is 0 points on the current Weight Watchers plans, into 0 point Greek Gyro meat with a whole lot of seasonings and black magic trickery. So let's start things off. Because I don't want the meat to stick, just a little trick of mine, I'm going to spray the inside of the mixing bowl with cooking spray. Let's get the ground turkey in there. Now I'll add now I'm not going to say all the spices because I'm trying to save time, but they are on the recipe that will be posted. This is a whole lot of spices. And the trick to get that ground beef color and a lot of flavor, you can use a little blender, a little food processor, whatever. We have a small onion chopped and 3 garlic cloves. Now the normal recipes call for you to just puree this and then mix it in. However, I want this ground turkey to have the color of ground beef. So I'm going to be adding 3 tablespoons of beef broth, and trust me on this is just for color. If somebody mentioned that they don't want to put it in because they have dogs that they want to feed their meat to and dogs are allergic to cocoa powder, you can leave it out. This is just for coloring. This is 2 teaspoons of unsweetened cocoa powder, and I'm going to mix this up. Sorry about the noise. All right, it's all blended. Now the reason I added cocoa powder in with this is if I were just trying to add dried cocoa powder into the meat mixture to help color it, that would be incredibly difficult because you're essentially trying to dissolve 2 teaspoons of dry powder throughout the entire meat and make it look uniform. Where this, we're dissolving it into a pasty, dark liquid. So it will spread through the meat much easier. And then to that, we have our Worcestershire sauce and our 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda with a little water, which will help with the alkaline level and give you a nice crust on the end, and our secret weapon, kitchen bouquet browning and seasoning sauce. This is what will truly make the meat look like ground beef once it's cooked. So this is a very, very wet, sticky mix, but there is a trick for that. We have water. So I'm going to start mixing this up, and you're going to see how it's going to be really sticky, and it's eventually going to get gloopy and start sticking to my hands and all of that stuff. And you can see how the meat is going to be a darker color. All right, I have this thoroughly mixed, but as you can see, this is so incredibly sticky. Now, a sane person would be thinking there is no way you could possibly get this into a solid ball that isn't just sticky like this. Well, water is our friends. I'm going to dunk my hand in some water, and then it all magically starts forming into a ball. One more time. And it's no longer sticking to my hands like it was before. Now it's taking on a nice shape and it's not sticking as much, and it's all because of our good friend water. I feel like I'm in life science class in 4th grade. So we have this mixed up, and you can see it has a nice color, more reminiscent of ground beef than turkey. Our wet hands are shaping it into a nice ball, and we are going to cover this with plastic and let it rest in the fridge for 30 minutes. And because of the baking soda in there, it'll help with the texture, and also it'll help it firm up after that 30 minutes. All right, everybody, now our gyro meat has been resting in the fridge for 30 minutes. I'm going to wet my hands again and show you how just a little bit more. How it did form up. It's still nice, moist, and has the texture of very soft Play-Doh, which is what we want. All of the additional water that we've added to our hands to help shape this has served a secondary purpose in that it has also added a lot of extra moisture into this ground turkey breast, which it really needs because it is a very dry culinary medium, you might say. So let's put this in there. Now we are going to get to the business of shaping our gyro meat. I'm going to take this cutting board away. I'm going to take a 2-foot length, roughly 2 feet, right about there, of foil wrap. Spray this with cooking spray. Pretend you are shellacking up a cast member of the Jersey Shore. Spray the meat on one side. Spray it on the other side. And we are going to ultimately fit this into this regular standard bread pan. We're going to shape this into a nice shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but we don't want it to be too long that it will come over the sides of this. Right about here is good. That's good. And it'll also get a little bit more rounded once we decide to turn this into a big meat Tootsie Roll. Ta-da! I'm going to take these off. We're going to, let's see, it ends right about there. Going to scrunch up the ends. And this is right about in there. Scrunch up the ends on both sides. Now we have our own Chipotle burrito. And it still is a good length where it fits in here. Now when you order a gyro, when you go to a kebab place, normally you see this huge cylinder of meat on a vertical rotisserie that's spinning. Well, we want to emulate that. We don't want to just bake this mashed into a meatloaf pan because this is ground turkey. It dries out really quickly. And if we have this baking for a prolonged period of time, the fat-free ground turkey with hot surface all around it touching the meat, it's going to be very dry. And because we want it to have this nice uniform texture and we want to emulate the whole rotisserie gyro thing, I'm going to take metal skewers that are long enough to protrude past the ends. I'm going to knot down the middle on the side of each one. There we go. There's one. And then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to have the other wide handle on this side. I'm going to have it come through and a little bit lower. This way. Get in there. That's better. And so now it's held in place. We're going to, just for the heck of it, add a little bit of water to the bottom of our pan. I'm going to suspend the meat right up on top. And you can see that there's space. It's not touching anywhere around. It's held up nice and secure. The tin foil is helping support the weight of the meat so the skewers don't just slide up through it. And just to make sure, I mean, you could trust my listed bake time, but all ovens are different. So I have a probe thermometer, and in the words of Chef from the first episode of South Park, we're going to insert the thermometer up the gyro's hoobajoob, about halfway down, and we're going to put this in our preheated oven that's at 350 degrees. Now, I have a thermometer inside the oven because, you know, when your oven beeps and tells you it's ready, it's not at the right temperature. A lot of times there's up to a 50, sometimes if you have an older oven, 100-degree variance. So I have a temperature reader thermometer that you have in the oven. Make sure it's at the right temperature. It's at 350 right now. I'm going to put this in the center rack of the oven and then plug in the thermometer and set the temperature for, come on, for, just trust me on this, 150 degrees. All right, I just wanted to show you this. Our thermometer is at about 350. That's the true temperature inside. I have the meat suspended in here. The probe coming out, set at 150, and just to, so I could keep track of how long the actual cook time ends up, starting the timer. Well, the stopwatch function, whatever. So we're gonna let this go until this gets to 150 degrees internally. Okay, it has been baking for 1 hour and 10 minutes. It just reached 150 degrees. So I'm going to turn up the oven to, let's see, bake 450. Turn it to 450, open up the oven, take this out. Oh, you can see it over there. Right. And I am going to take my giant baked meat Tootsie Roll and I'm going to set it right here. It's be a little hot, so I'm dipping my fingers in some water. Good thing for having long nails. And I'm going to peel this foil off. I am not going to remove these skewers. I want those. Here we go. It's okay if it takes a minute. That's fine. Because the residual heat is still having this go up. It's already gone up to 151 degrees inside. There we go. Good job. And it's tinfoil. It peels off right around the skewers on both ends. Let me, one way. Much easier. And it's mostly cooked, but it has this pale color to it. I want to get it nice and golden. We're now going to put it back on. I'm going to spray it with cooking spray. The oven has turned back on, and now we are going to pop this right back in for 5 minutes. And I will come back in 5 minutes. All right, it has been roasting at 450 degrees for 5 minutes. The color has darkened a bit. Now we are going to flip it one more time. Spray this side with cooking spray and put it back in for another 5 minutes. And we'll be right back in 5. All right, our gyro, turning off the oven, has cooked for its last 5 minutes. Let's take it out. Now both sides, take this off. Both sides are a nice darker color. The cool thing is now that we're going to let this sit and rest for 15 minutes, because of the slight baking soda solution that we had added into the meat, while this rests, it is going to start to darken. So I'm gonna pause it right here so when I fade back in, you can see the color difference. All right, the meat rested for 15 minutes. Now we're going to take it over to our board and slice it up. All right, this is actually really simple. I have a paper towel I have folded up, get it a little wet. The reason for that, you'll see in a second. Going to take the two skewers out and replace one of them right through the middle. So this is, or fairly through the middle. So this is pretty well balanced. And this wider end I'm going to have on the bottom. So the meat can sit on this paper towel, stays in place, won't scratch up my plate. And then you get your knife and you just start, just like at a kebab place, just start slicing the meat nice and thin all the way around. And you can see how this ground turkey has really nice dark color, just like ground beef. And you keep going all the way around until you have a big mound of meat, and you can freeze any leftovers. And on the recipe page, I have instructions for how I prefer to heat it up. But yeah, pretty much that's it. Your thin sliced gyro meat for 0 points.